This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so yesterday we registered for the one of the free account, developer edition. Okay, the URL to register is developer.salesforce.com. So I believe by this time you have created the account and you have your own account. So going forward, whatever I teach in the session, you have to practice in our own developer edition account. Okay. So now we are assuming that we registered for the Dell company production, and the employees of the Dell company, they log into Salesforce, and they are exploring the standard applications provided by Salesforce, marketing, sales, and service, all those applications. So at present, I think we are exploring about the marketing application, right? So now to login.salesforce.com, enter the username and password so that you can log in. So for me, I have maybe many accounts, more than 100. I cannot manage remembering username and password. So there is one way to create a bookmark. So you can create the bookmark, and directly if you click on that, automatically it will be logged into Salesforce by supplying username and password. Okay. So I'm going to just maintain these credentials also in that format. So if you are using your personal system, personal laptop, if you want the shortcut like that, you can also create. Okay, but public systems, you should not do this. Okay, just that is one of the solution. Okay, so now instead of opening login.salesforce.com, again entering username, password, and again click on login. All we do, if you hit this URL in the browser, automatically it will be logged into Salesforce by supplying this username and password. Okay, same thing I'm creating as a bookmark. Okay, so for me to remember. So going forward, I'll be using this. I'm going to click on this instead of opening login.salesforce.com and entering username and password. Okay, so copy, and I'm keeping here. So it's like a bookmark for me. So going forward, I click here so that it will supply username and password through URL, and automatically it will be logged. So now we logged into the production. And now we are assuming that this is the Dell company production. So the users in this organization exploring about the standard applications. So once we log into Salesforce, if you want to open the application, you need to click on App Launcher. So this icon, these dots, whatever you are seeing, we call this as App Launcher. Click on App Launcher, and if you want to see all the applications, click on View All. So these are the applications. At present, we are dealing with the marketing application. Choose marketing application. So left side, you see the name of the application. So right side, all these are the tabs. So as part of this application, whoever is using this application, those users frequently refer to these database tables. So all these are the tables. Technically here in Salesforce, we call as objects. So all these are the tabs. Through tab, it will be connected to one of the object means table. So already yesterday we saw this. If you click on this campaigns, we see the recently viewed campaigns, and we have list views which will control out of many records in the database which records you want to see. If you see more records, and also observe how the campaign is created. This is some test data provided by Salesforce. So in general, like this, they give the name of the campaign, what type of the campaign, direct email, it is a mail campaign, and what is the budget and what is the expected revenue, how much they spend. So all those details will be captured in the campaign. So due to the campaign is nothing but advertisement. Leads will be generated. Okay, in the lead, company plus the personal information both will be there. Let's see how lead looks. Click on leads. So all the leads, whatever generated, you can see under this leads tab. We did not see any lead recently, that's why we are not seeing anything. If you want to see all the leads, if you choose this list view. Now this is also test data provided by Salesforce. So these are the leads for sample purpose to understand how the lead can be maintained. So all these are the standard fields, right? Fields means columns. All these standard fields are provided by Salesforce. So this is highlights panel. This part is highlights panel. And details, in detail, if you want to see more information, you see here. You see, this is the name of the person, right? So, Bertha Boxer, this person contacted from this company. In that company, that person title is Director of Vendor Relations. Company, maybe fax number, email, and right, the annual revenue of the company, address of the company. So all those details are there. You see the combination of the personal information who is working in that company plus the company information you are seeing here. So this is how the information will be maintained. Now someone from the Dell company will call to this lead and check for the interest. So the lead status will be tracked. So what is happening to the lead will be tracked using one of the standard field called lead status. Field means column. And this is a standard field provided by Salesforce. These are the standard values provided by Salesforce. Really, if there is a need to add or remove, we can do. That's the reason we are going to work. Okay. So here, if the lead is showing interest, lead can be marked as closer converted. Not showing interest, they'll mark like this, and going forward, don't call to that lead. So that's what will happen. Okay. So and also based on this status. So if you see this, you are seeing a path, right? Here, pictorial representation, what is happening to the lead. Technically, we call this one as lead path. Okay, so what is the progress of the lead? By seeing this easily, you can understand, right? So if the lead is closer converted, means showing interest further. So it can be marked like that, and this lead is qualified and ready to be converted as a customer. Okay, that is how the lead will be maintained. So once the lead is closed successfully, then the lead can be converted into account, contact, and opportunity. So for that, here if you see, these are the buttons, or we also call as actions, quick actions. Okay, so if you click here, so one of the action, convert, you can click on this convert and convert the lead into account, contact, and opportunity. So here account means company. Whatever the company specific information is there in the lead will be captured into account. Whatever the contact specific information, the personal information is there will be captured into contact. Opportunity is the deal. So what exactly they want. Okay, so and also which fields of the lead will be mapped to which fields of the account. So that mapping you can see going forward. I'll show you. Internally, there is a mapping which field of the lead will be mapped to which field of the account. Okay, as per that, automatically it will map. Okay, and also out of these three, creating the opportunity is optional. So while converting the lead, let's say if the client don't want to generate the opportunity, so you can check this checkbox so that when you convert the lead, only it will create the account and the contact. And that is one of the point. Let's say a client is asking, they don't want to create the account. they want to create only contact. If they ask like that, that is not possible. Okay, either they have to choose existing account or create the new one. Without choosing or without creating, skipping that is not possible. So that's the reason we need to work. But client is insisting they don't want account, or they don't want to choose existing account also. They want to directly convert lead into contact. It's not possible with the standard features. The standard features we call as out of the box features. So you see this terminology using in the meetings, right? So out of the box feature is not supported. That means the standard features are not supported to achieve that requirement. So in those situations, we need to go with the development, right? It is not possible to achieve this with the configuration. We have to do the development and achieve the requirement of the client. That means we need to recreate this entire page with our development and achieve the requirement. That's about that. Okay, so let's say I want to generate everything. Convert. Okay, so lead is converted into account, contact, and the opportunity. So if you open account, the company specific information, right? The name of the company, Farmers Group of Florida, that is the company name, and address of the company, revenue, company specific details are captured here. Related in this company, this is the contact. At present, this person is dealing with the company requirement. So the details, if you open, so this person, so the name and this person is associated to this company, and the company email address and the phone number, all those details are there, right? So in the same way, opportunity related to that company. So what exactly they want? That maybe what is the amount generated if the deal is closed successfully. So all those details will be managed in the opportunity. And also opportunity is a deal. It's not that opportunity is created, they are going to take the product or service. So sales representative of the deal will talk to the customer, employees of this company, and try to close the deal successfully. So the progress of the opportunity will be tracked using a key field called stage. So here qualification, if the stage is changed, you see this is, so this one technically we call as sales path. On lead, we call as lead path. Opportunity is like a selling, right? So here technically this path we call as sales path. Okay. So in sales path, based on the stage, whatever we are changing, it will mark that, and so that when the sales rep see this opportunity, quickly can identify what is the progress of this opportunity. Okay, so that's the purpose of this. Okay, so that's about that. And also some companies, they will be having the products. You see right side products, they want to add products. Let's say one of the product quantity 100, maybe one more product quantity 10, right? And also pricing, based on the pricing, automatically it should calculate and show here. So that is also possible. Okay, so here you can click on add products, and we can add multiple products as part of this opportunity, what they are expecting. Okay, and also here you see price book. The purpose of the price book is, let's say if you take one product, the price will be different in different states and different countries. For example, laptop, let's say Dell laptop, the price in US is different and the price in India is different. The price in US is less when compared to India. So those pricing will be controlled by using the price book. Okay, so maybe if the Dell laptops, if the company is buying from India, the price is different. If the company is buying in US, the price is different, right? So those kind of things will be controlled using the price books. So that is little advanced. So going forward, we'll see how exactly we do. Okay. So in general, so you see there is a standard price book. Okay. We also create the multiple price books based on the need, so that we show the variation with the price of the product. So based on the price book, the price of the product will be different. We decide that while creating the price book. Okay. So just understand, for now I'm not adding any price book, just simply I'm adding few products. And also Salesforce is providing some test data for the products. So if it is Dell company, what we do, we delete all these things and create all the products, whatever Dell is selling, and we choose only those, right? This is the test data. Okay, so quickly, so maybe I'm choosing whatever is already present, right? So let's say this is one, and so this I'm choosing, and I click on next. So at present, this is the price, right? You can also change the price and the quantity, let's say one, and date and all those things you can give save, so that automatically the price based on the quantity, so it is added. So when you add the products, this amount field value will become read only. If you don't add any product, you can edit and enter whatever the value you want as per the name. Okay, so that is about the opportunity, right? In each and every phase, what is happening will be controlled here. So basically, marketing reps, when they use the marketing application, really they don't deal with the closing the opportunity, right? The main job of this closing the opportunity is by the sales representatives. So if you open the sales application, in sales application also you will see the opportunity. So maybe marketing people, they just look into the opportunity, but really they don't change anything. So this is the place where sales reps mainly deal with the opportunity. And also while dealing, they need to know, so the company, this opportunity is for which company, who is the point of contact, maybe to schedule the meetings. So whatever is needed, all those are added as tabs here. Okay. So here sales in Salesforce application is nothing but set of tabs, the collection of tabs. That's it, not more than that. And many people think that. So if I create a record, this is the opportunity. In opportunity, if I create the one of the record in the sales application, will it be available in the marketing application? Such kind of questions people ask. The thing is, everywhere it will show. This object, this table information is organization specific. Within this company, from any place, if you access the opportunity, the data created will be available. Okay, so the data won't be restricted to a specific to the application. Here application is nothing but, since people refer these tabs, these objects frequently, showing all those tabs together in one place, and they are calling as an application. Okay, so you don't see anything specific to application data is storing, and only that is available in the sales application. It is not like that. Okay, so just to have that understanding. So now sales reps mainly they work on this. Already we saw how we deal with the opportunity. The other tabs based on the need, the sales reps will refer and do the job. The other application service is one of the standard application. So mainly support representatives, they use the service application. Mainly they use cases tab, cases, support activity. It can be installation request, it can be problem with a product. So open cases, right? These are some of the cases. Okay, so if you see here, for case, you see the information right side, the detailed information. So if you see here, right? So the subject may be installation of one of the product. So that's the case. Okay, so someone will work and close the case successfully as soon as possible. Okay, so you see the status here. They have to mark it as working and they have to close it successfully. So these things will be done by the support representatives. So these are the standard applications offered by Salesforce at high level. So just we saw all these applications and understood, right? So now this Dell company, like this, they explore. Let's say they explored for 1 month, and I think they are fine to go with the Salesforce. So now exactly these applications they cannot use as it is. In long run, they want many enhancements on top of these standard applications. So let's say this Dell company identified 100 requirements. So for now, the company and the employees of the company identified 100 enhancements on top of these standard applications. Okay, so but Dell company, let's say they don't have Salesforce IT team. Okay, so this company they invite some of the service-based companies for bidding, like Wipro, TCS, right? Let's say Wipro company, one of the service-based company, won the bidding. Now, let's say we get job in Wipro, right? If you get the job in Wipro, so Wipro company will be allocated into this Dell project, right? So we need to work for the Dell client. We are the employee of Wipro, but we work for the Dell project, right? To help achieving the 100 requirements. So Wipro company, let's say they assigned one manager, one team lead, let's say 4 team members. So out of that, let's say 3 who can work on admin and the development of the Salesforce, and 1 resource for testing. Okay, let's say this is the team. So once we get the job, right? So you can also play the QA role, Salesforce testing. You can also work as the administrator if you know only admin. If you know both, it is good. We'll be working on both. This is our scope to work in the project. Maybe you might be team lead who can also work on both admin and development. So manager will manage the project. So will be one of the member in this team, right? So this team is going to achieve the 100 requirements, whatever Dell company is having. Okay, now, so this Dell company will provide access to these employees to log in and proceed doing the development. So at least if they don't like to provide to everyone, Dell company will provide access to, let's say, team lead, so that that person can log in and start doing the necessary things. Okay. So the thing is, when the project starts and when the development starts, we should not directly work in the production. Production, all Dell employees on day to day, they are using the applications, they are creating the records, they are creating the data. The live data is there. If you directly work in production, the real direct data will be affected. They see some awkward errors and all those things. To avoid that, we have to work in the test environments. Here in Salesforce, test environment means sandbox. So from production, we can create the sandbox and we can start working for the working in the sandbox. Okay. So now this team lead is having access to Dell production, but this guy knows that directly in the production we should not work. So in the production environment, so we see sandbox as option. Okay, so that guy will search for sandboxes and multiple sandboxes can be created for multiple purpose. For example, when the project starts to do the development, we need one test environment, sandbox. Let's say Dev, one of the sandbox is created. For testing purpose, the QA team, quality assurance team to do the testing, they need one sandbox, right? QA sandbox. And let's say after doing the development and testing by the Wipro team, Dell company employees, they want to test from their side one more time and proceed further. So you see UAT. UAT means user acceptance testing. The client side employees will do the testing. So once they sign off, it will be deployed to production, right? So anyway, this is not a sandbox, right? Production is a real, the live environment. So mostly in most of the projects, you see these sandboxes created. Okay. So now when we start working, so as a developer, as an administrator, when we start, we first work in Dev sandbox. After that, as a developer, as an administrator, we do testing, right? I developed something myself, I do some testing, whether it is working or not. We do the unit testing and we deploy to QA. So then QA team, they'll do the testing, right? The full-fledged testing will be done by QA, and after that it will be deployed to UAT, right? So UAT, right? So client side employees, they do the testing, sign off. Finally, that will be deployed to production. Okay, so mostly in most of the projects, you see this process. Okay, maybe it's not 100% needed to really follow this. Some companies, they won't be having UAT, only development and QA and production deployment. So it's all based on the company. Mostly the minimum standard is maintaining this. So development and specialized testing team do the testing. Client side employees, they do the testing. Finally deploy to production. So now we are going to work in the Dev sandbox, right? So now, so and also maybe some of you, if you are new to IT, so people are not knowing how the project, how it works. So I'm going to explain about one process. So we are not going to work for all 100 requirements at a time and deliver. Right? Maybe 100 requirements to achieve, it might take 1 month, maybe, sorry, 1 year also, right? So client cannot wait for 1 year and so nowadays that is not happening. Okay, so client needs the features immediately as soon as possible. Okay, so in most of the times in the projects, in the companies nowadays, the process is the Agile process. Right? This is not related to Salesforce. Not only Salesforce, any technology to do the project progress with the requirements. In projects, they follow a process to deliver the project successfully. Yeah, one of the famous processes is Agile process. So as part of the Agile process, instead of delivering all 100 requirements at a time, they will divide the releases into different sprints. So they plan for multiple releases. Let's say first release 5 requirements, second release 5 requirements. So like that they plan and they deliver. Okay, so that's the process nowadays in the projects most of the companies follow, right? So each release technically, in technical perspective, we call as sprint. Here you see sprint is started, right? So sprint 1, sprint 2, so like that. So sprint is nothing but release. Okay, maybe if you want to know, it is a release. So in general, the duration of the release as per the Agile process, it should be 2 weeks, or based on the company, let's say they want 1 month, they keep for 1 month. Okay, let's say the duration is 2 weeks in one of the project. The employees decided to have 2 weeks. So out of these 2 weeks, 1 week for development, right? The configuration or development, whatever. So 1 week for testing. Okay, and it's not that as a administrator developer we work in first week. Second week they will raise bugs. we also need to work in second week also. Okay, so it's like, so we work like that in the projects. And also in this sprint, 2 weeks sprint. So what is the team size? Let's say 3 admin and dev and one team lead. Total 4 members can do the development, right? So 4 team members, how many requirements they can work? Let's say all together they can work for 5 requirements. Okay, so they decide to work for 5 requirements by all these 4 employees who can work on Salesforce admin and development, and they decide to release these requirements. Okay, first week for development and the second week for QA. So that is the process followed. So and also how where they decide. So 5 requirements needs to be worked. So before starting the sprint, so before each sprint, there is a meeting. Technically, we call as backlog grooming. Okay, so in that meeting, they decide what are the requirements they are going to work. Okay, so before each sprint, there is a grooming session. So their employees discuss, and they can say, I can work on this in first week, I can complete, or partially I will complete. So as per what we agreed, we complete and tell it. So this is how it will continue. And also you see daily stand-up meetings to know the progress, right? Day to day, everyone they connect and they update the status. Let's say I'm one of the employee working for one of the requirement. So when I join the meeting, I'll say yesterday I worked on one of the feature. I say I'm progressing on one of the other scenario, something like that. So what we are doing, all those things will be updated in the daily stand-up calls. Okay, so mostly you see like this. Maybe some companies in some projects, if they are not following, it is fine. If you know this, I think it is better. Okay, so mostly you see people following this process. Okay, so maybe this is not related to Salesforce. So general project methodology, right? So mostly we also do that, and first week we do the configuration, admin, and development activities in Dev Sandbox. Deploy to QA. From second week, the QA team they do the testing. If they identify any defects, right, bugs, again we have to work in Dev and again deploy to QA. Once they sign off, it will be moved to UAT. Then client side employees they do the testing. If they find any bug, again we need to do testing. Again we need to do development and the QA team will do testing. Again they'll do testing. If they sign off, finally it will be deployed to production. Okay, so that's the process in the projects we follow. So now how we create sandboxes, let me show you. So to create the sandbox, so whatever the account we registered is developer edition account, right? The thing is in the developer edition account, unfortunately, you cannot create the sandboxes. Okay, you cannot experience on how it deals. So what I do, I'm going to open one of the production. Okay, the paid one, right? Production means which is registered with Salesforce and paying the license. So in that, they provide the option to create the sandboxes. So I log into that and show you, so that you know how you deal. And also this creation is like a one-time process. Very rare. It's not that everyone get the chance to create the sandbox, because that is one-time activity before starting the project. So on day to day, we really won't deal with that, right? But anyway, I'm showing how it looks. I'm trying to log into, I'm just passing my screen for a few seconds. I'm logging into one of the production. Okay, again, I'm sharing my screen. So if you see my screen, so this is the one of the company production. Okay, so let's see the company information. Company information. So since this is a paid account, one of the advantage you see, right? So the company name and the data. So this is a enterprise edition. If you see Salesforce editions, it is enterprise edition. This company got space in AP16 server, and if you see the data space, 10 GB you see, 10 GB is allocated. Right? For us in developer edition only 5 MB. Right? Here 10 GB space is allocated. But since it is paid, each user, right, is counted for license. We have only one license for Salesforce. If you want to have two, you have to pay 2 users license. Right? But this company is paying only 1 user license. Right? So like that. And also, whatever the applications you see in the developer edition, all those things you cannot see here. There are limitations. Everything is licensed, right, in the paid account. So this company is having only sales. So they have only access for sales, not for support. You see here, you are not seeing marketing, you are not seeing anything, only sales related applications you are seeing. When compared to this developer edition, you can experience everything, right? So don't think that we don't have access to real time. Developer edition is beyond what we do in some of the editions, okay? Accept some limitations like creating sandbox and space, right? So now, so here what I want to show, one of the advantage, sandboxes can be created. Left side, right, once you are in the setup area, if you are not in the setup area, you need to click on gear icon and click on setup, right? Left side, so search for sandboxes, okay? This you don't see in the developer edition. Click on sandboxes. So already if you see, sandboxes are there, Dev, QA, UAT, maybe training, staging. You see, even you can create many, maybe for users training purpose. One of the new feature is develop. The employees of the Dell company should know how to use that, right? So maybe for that purpose, one of the sandbox training will be created and they train the employees of the Dell company how they can use the new feature so that in production they can use that. So like that, for different purpose, we create the different sandboxes. So if you see sandboxes, most of all these sandboxes servers, CS means customer sandbox. Maybe it might be located in Asia Pacific or maybe North America. By seeing that, we don't know until we go to that website and filter and see. Okay, but what you need to know, all sandboxes will be getting the space in CS servers. Okay, CS means customer sandbox. So now, so how the sandbox looks, maybe let me show you, right? So login. Only the difference is to log into the sandbox, the URL is test.salesforce.com. Okay, so to log into the production URL is login.salesforce.com. To log into the sandbox URL is test.salesforce.com. Okay, now here one of the question. So for all these sandboxes, same URL? Yes, same URL. But how we know we are trying to log into dev or QA or UAT? So people follow the naming conventions. Okay, so let's say in the production, this is the username, right? So if this user is having access to dev, how the name will be maintained? The production username dot dev. Okay, so if this user is also having access to QA and having access to UAT, dot QA, dot UAT. So even though for all these sandboxes to log in, they open the same URL. With the username, they know that to which account they are trying to log in. So naming conventions will be followed in the projects so that we'll be having clarity on in which sandbox we are trying to log in. Okay. So you should know that on day to day, we don't really work in production. On day to day, when you join in a project and working for a company, we open test.salesforce.com. Mostly we work with the dev. We provide the username and the password and login and do the work. Okay. So, but throughout this course, since don't have access to sandbox, or even though I create in sandbox, we lose those. Okay. Sandbox is not permanent. Okay. So we work in the developer edition, directly production. So day to day, we open login.salesforce.com, username and password and work. But after the course, when you join in a project, so this also you should know. This is the URL and this is the naming convention we follow. So maybe people ask how sandbox looks something special. Nothing. It is also looks like same thing. Only the difference is on top you see div. Okay, let me show you so that you'll also get some understanding on that. Okay. So here, that's why for Salesforce, there is nothing like real time how it looks, right? Exactly same in developer edition, what we do. Okay. Uh, so I'm trying to log into one of the sandbox, right? The URL is test.salesforce.com, right? So here I'm using the naming convention, right? .dev, and I'm using the password and login. So this is how we log into the sandbox. It also looks same, right? Nothing special. Only the difference is on top. You see one of the maybe one of the messages like div sandbox div. That's it. If you log into QA, you see sandbox QA like that. So nothing more than that. Okay. So even though you don't have access to this sandboxes creation and all these things, really no need to worry. Okay. This is a one-time job. Anyway, I'm showing how we do that. So just if you know how it looks, that's fine. Okay.
How many users can log into
The sandbox also multiple users can log in, right? How many users can log into production? In the same way. So all those users in the production also will be copied into sandbox, but really the end users, right? Dell employees is not going to use sandboxes. What we do, we deactivate those Dell employee users as an administrator, as a developer. This team needs access, right, to work on the project. We deactivate the end users in the sandbox and we create users for this so that all these employees, everyone will connect to same sandbox and do the development. Okay. So this is about that process. Okay. So I believe you are able to understand. So any questions, let me know. So this is the process. Okay. So now the next phase, while creating these sandboxes, there are different types of sandboxes. Okay. If you see here, when you try to create a new sandbox, right, it is asking you want a developer type or a developer pro, partial copy. So what's the difference? And also you see the licenses. So these are available by default. These licenses are not there. If the company wants these licenses, they have to purchase with the additional cost. Okay, that is one of the thing. But what will happen when I create the sandbox? We need to choose one of this type. We want to create the sandbox with which type. So if you choose developer type, what will happen? Developer pro, what will happen? I'm going to explain. Okay. So let's say from the sandbox, from the production, you are creating the dev sandbox. It asks while creating, let's say I'm creating dev2 sandbox, right? Dev2 sandbox. So we have to choose which type you want. Let's say if I go with this type, so what will happen? It creates the test environment by copying the content from the production, right? So from production, so what it can copy? All the configuration. configuration means the application, the tab, the object structure, the fields structure. So whatever is there, all those things will be copied, right? Applications, tabs, and objects. Object means tables, columns means fields. All those things will be copied. And also Apex, going forward as part of the development, we write the code by using Apex programming language. So all the development related files and everything will be copied, but not the data. It also copy the users, right? But not the data in the table. Let's say we saw campaigns table and leads table. Only the table structure will be copied. The data inside the table. So for example, when I click on this account, the account table structure, all the fields and everything will be copied. Data means this, right? 1 to 14, whatever you are saying, this won't be copied. Okay, so that's the behavior. Okay, that's what it can include while copying. And also the capacity is only 200 MB. So let's say the production capacity is 10 GB. But when you create this sandbox, system only limit to 200 MB. And we have to create our own test data to test the application because it is not going to copy any real data from the production. Okay, so these are the limitations. And also here, refresh time interval 1 day, right? So what is the meaning of the refresh? Okay, so if you go back and see for these sandboxes, you are seeing one link called refresh. So what will happen if you do the refresh? It will clear all the information from the sandbox. It will format. It's like formatting. It clear everything, and again freshly copy from the production, and again generate the sandbox. Okay, so the reason why we need to refresh. The reason why we refresh. So let's say we are working for sprint 1. There are 4 developers working for the requirements. So while achieving requirements, we try to achieve the requirement with different approaches. Let's say I tried 4 approaches and I feel one of the approaches better. I go with that. Maybe for remaining approaches, whatever the changes I make, I suppose it to revert and keep in a original state. I might forget. The other developers also might do the same thing. So after 2 or 3 releases, right, the other sandboxes will be having the perfect changes because we document and deploy only the changes as per the requirement, right? Maybe until it reach production, you will see mostly production full-fledged proper features because after all testing and everything, so we deploy to production. But in sandboxes, you see some many unnecessary changes, right? So 4 developers are working, and after maybe 2 or 3 releases, you see many unnecessary changes which are not present in the production. Still, on top of that, dev, if you continue to work, our results will go wrong. Okay, so that's the reason in most of the projects, people refresh the sandbox. So when the sandbox is refreshed, everything from the sandbox will be removed. And again, it copy from the production and place here. It's like again, we are creating a new sandbox, right? Refresh means the name will be same, but all contents will be removed and again copy from the production and place. So that's nothing but the refresh. Okay, so in projects, so at least once in 3 months or 6 months or 1 year, people refresh. Okay, so just understand that concept. So here, when you see new sandbox and while creating, refresh time interval 1 day. The meaning is, let's say we created a sandbox with a developer type. Immediately after creating, you don't see that refresh link. You saw a refresh link for all sandboxes, right? That link you don't see until 1 day. That's the limitation. So it's not the meaning that every day we refresh, okay? In case, in worst case, after creating the sandbox, immediately again, due to some reason, if you want to refresh, we have to at least wait for 1 day. So that's the meaning of the refresh time interval. And here people ask question. So we are working in dev, and development is in progress, and we are going to refresh. So what will happen? My work is still not in production. There are many changes which are in progress. So those changes we lose. How to avoid losing? We have to take the backup, right? So how to take the backup for the configuration? There are some tools like Visual Studio Code. So when we start with the development, that time I'll explain about that. Okay. So we have the chance to take the backup. Okay. So that once after refreshing, again we put our changes which are in progress back to dev and continue working. Okay. So just understand those things. In the same way, if you choose Developer Pro, same features of Developer, the difference is with the capacity. So 1 GB space will be allocated for the Developer Pro sandbox. That's the purpose. And the other type, partial copy. So partial copy means by this name you can understand. It can partially copy the real data from the production. Whatever the real production data is there, from that some amount of the data can be copied. Which data I want to copy? There are some templates. So we create a template, and in that we decide from which table you want to copy, how much data you want to copy, all those things. So up to 5 GB of the data can be copied, right? So all features of the Developer Pro. Additionally, the selected amount of records from the production, some partial production data, real data can be copied. And the capacity is 5 GB. And for this type of sandbox, when you create, until 5 days, you don't see the refreshing. In worst case, if you want to refresh, immediately you cannot refresh. You need to wait for 5 days. That's the meaning of this. So now the next type, full copy, which is most expensive sandbox license. Okay. So if you want the full copy license, we need to purchase from the Salesforce. And this is same as source. That means the production capacity is 10 GB. For the full copy sandbox capacity also 10 GB. Whatever the content is there in production, the real data, everything can be copied, right? Exactly mirror copy. Okay, that's why it is more expensive. So, and this full copy sandbox in general, if you create until 29 days, you don't see the refreshing. So that's the meaning. It's not the meaning that every 29 days we need to refresh. In worst case, if you want to refresh, you have to wait until 29 days after creating. Okay. So these are the types of sandboxes. So here I'm saying we create dev and QA and UAT. Dev, which type we choose? So it's not limited to choose only particular type. It's all based on the client licenses, which licenses they have, and based on the client. So mostly in most of the projects, you see creating the dev sandbox by choosing either developer or developer pro. Okay, mostly dev sandboxes will be created with the developer or developer pro. Partial copy. Okay, so this will be used for QA, because QA, they mainly deal with the testing. They want some real test data. That way the accuracy of the testing will be more. So mostly for QA testing, you see people creating the partial copy sandbox. Okay, and the other type, full copy, right? Exactly the replica of the production. Mostly UAT sandbox will be created with the full copy type. So which is before production. Maybe some issues might not be identified in QA. In UAT can be identified due to the quality of the data, right? So that's the UAT. And finally, if everything is done, it will be deployed to production. So this is about the process, right? So how we create the test environments and what are these types. Okay. So, but these are like one-time job. Just I'm trying to show you, right? So maybe really, even though you are working, those employees might not know about this, right? Just we are starting from scratch, how the project starts and how all these things will be. So that really, if there is a need, we will be very confident on doing this. Okay. So that's it. So that's about the sandboxes creation and how we do that. Okay. So these are the basics. So
Sir, I
now,
have a question.
yes.
Once, like you mentioned, for development team unit testing, they select all the different kinds of sandboxes once forever, or it depends on the different projects. They keep changing the sandboxes, or how it works, sir?
Yeah. See. Yeah. So based on the, let's say you are working for a Dell client, right? Dell customer.
Hmm.
So for development, they create a dev, right? All employees who do development, they work here. Let's say sometimes what will happen, Dell company, so they are giving project to multiple companies. Let's say
Okay.
some part of the module they're utilizing from Wipro. Maybe some set of requirements they give for maybe some other company, TCS, right? So that time what happens, they create dev 1 for Wipro, they create dev 2 for TCS. TCS employees work in dev 2, Wipro employees work in dev 1, and they deploy to QA. They merge it and deploy to QA, right? So maybe for QA they give to some other company. You see some clients doing that, right? So
Okay.
let's say CTS company is doing the testing, right? So they'll do the testing, and finally UAT, Dell company side employees, they do the testing. So it's like that. It's all based on the project, right? So
Okay.
it's not that whatever I explained is ultimately followed in all the projects. Most of the projects, this process will be followed. But in some small client projects, you see only development and the deploy to production also. In dev only we do deployment and do the development and the testing and deploy to production. I saw such kind of clients also, right? So it's all based on the client project and their budget, right? But most of the times, 80 to 90% in the projects, you see companies following this process. Okay.
Okay.
So is that answers your question?
Like I asked, for the teams, they select different kind of sandboxes, right? You mentioned for
So team
development
means,
team.
yeah, team
I'm s-
means, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Development team will work in Dev Sandbox, right?
Yes, yes, yeah.
And the
So
testing team, they work in
once they
QA.
select those sandboxes, is that the same one they have to continue forever, or they keep changing the sandboxes? That's what I'm asking.
They can continue with the same sandbox, right? So
Okay.
really there is a need of refresh, right? So sandbox will be same, username will be same, and everything will be same. In case if they want to reset the whatever the configuration and the content in the sandbox, we do refresh. Refresh means it will clear everything and again copy from the production and place it. After that
Okay.
also, still same URL, same username, same password users can use and log. It's like a continuous process on accessing the same thing until that user works in the same project.
Okay. So once the project is over, once it is released, so what happens to those sandboxes?
So
For next time, we can
yeah,
just refresh it.
yeah. Once the project is released, Wipro is done with that, right? So all these are owned by Dell company, right? They'll deactivate all the Wipro employees users and they'll own all these things, right? So the Dell company side, they decide how they want to use, right? Let's say
Okay.
for next phase of requirements, they are giving for some other company. Then they give access to that company employees, right?
Okay.
So this access is not permanent for Wipro, right? Wipro is just helping for the requirements of the Dell company. Once they deliver and they deploy and the project is done, Dell company is going to deactivate all the users of the Wipro, right? That will
Okay.
happen.
Okay,
Okay.
sir. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, sir.
Yeah. So Any questions so far, anyone?
So, sorry, Swenu, like Dev and QA, is there a separate login for admin also, or they use a Dev login?
So they work for same project, right? So they use the same login. Let's say someone is working for admin. It's nothing but in the same project, they are doing the configuration. Developer, they do configuration plus development, right? So the changes should be for the same project, right? Everyone log into the same sandbox and make changes there only.
Okay, but
Okay.
by logging with .dev, will they be able to do the admin work? That's what my question is.
Yes, they can do. Okay. So admin is also nothing but like a development. Okay. So we are achieving the client requirement. In the process of achieving the client requirement, you might do the configuration. When you do configuration, people say it is admin work. When you do the development, people say development work. So client won't bother about whether you are doing the administration or you are doing the development. Clients needs the requirement to be achieved, right? So we have to read the requirement and understand the requirement, and we decide with our experience whether that needs administration or the development. So we do that, right? So everyone, all those things will be done in the same sandbox. Okay.
Okay. And second question, Shinu, is you said that once the project is over, Dell company will deactivate the logins for, let's say, Wipro, TCS, CTS, right? So
Yeah.
is there a specific login with Dev through which they can do this, or any other way of doing this?
Sorry, after they deactivate, so what you want to do?
Once the project is over, you said that Dell company will deactivate the users which were created for Dev and QA from different companies, right? So
Yeah.
my question is, do the Dell company have a specific login to perform this activity, or there is a specific process?
Yeah, see, this sandbox is like one of the environment. So I told that when you create the dev sandbox, all the users of the production also will be copied, right?
Okay.
So all users of the Dell company also will be there, but some users, some end users, not needed. They don't really use the sandbox. That's why we deactivate and create the users for the Wipro. Initially, who do that? The employees of the Dell. They will, right? They are also having access to this dev. It's not that Dell company is not at all having access to this sandbox, right? They will be also having the access, right? In case if they don't have access, they'll delete this. If the project is done, they'll delete. They'll bother about again creating one more later, right? So all these are in the control of the Dell company, right? So the production.
Yeah, so that means that when they do the refresh from prod to dev or QA, if there were any users created for Dev and QA, those will not be there, right? After refresh, and they'll have to recreate it.
Yeah, it's correct. If some user who is not present in the production, additionally if they create in the dev, so those will go, those will be removed. Again, you need to create. Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so that's why what will happen. So let's say you don't want to lose these developer and administrators who created for the project. We can also refresh from other sandbox. When you are refreshing, we can also choose, do you want to refresh from other sandbox? That options also will be there. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions? I think someone is asking
Hi,
backlog.
Srinath.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to know the difference between Marketing Cloud and the Marketing Staff that you just explained yesterday and today.
So Marketing Cloud and the marketing.
The marketing tab that you explained yesterday and today.
Marketing application.
Yeah, got it. The
Yeah.
marketing.
So here, here in this project, marketing is having the basic marketing functionality like campaign and generating leads and all those things.
Okay.
So Marketing Cloud is a completely different, offered by Salesforce. That
Okay.
is having the capability. Some of the examples, let's say you want to send email to millions of customers, you want to
Okay.
send SMS to millions of customers.
Okay.
Those kind of capabilities you see as part of the Marketing Cloud. Here,
I see.
sending those many SMS for millions of users, all those options you don't find in this basic marketing application. Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay.
this course won't cover that Marketing Cloud, that one.
Yeah, I understand
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. And also that we cannot get that as a free. That is very expensive. Even someone to teach, unless they have project working, so they cannot teach because the license is very, very expensive. We cannot get it for free. It's like that. Okay.
Yeah. 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 And I have a few more questions, Shiva. Can I?
Yeah.
Yeah. And could you explain like how the training goes? Like, would you be taking up the project-based training route, or would you just explain what is how Salesforce works and how
I think
the
your
engaging?
voice is breaking. Can you speak loudly and slowly?
Yeah, could you explain like how the training goes? Like, would you take the project-based training or the regular, like just the normal explanation of CRM and development? And all?
Yeah. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take some requirements. Right. From Monday, we are going to start with the regular sessions. Right. So far, maybe since I need to explain about the basics, theoretically we discuss. Right. From Monday onwards,
Okay.
we take one of the project requirements. While achieving how to achieve those requirements, while achieving those requirements, I'll cover all the topics what we need for admin in the same way for the development. So we go
Okay.
based on the requirements, and in the process of achieving the requirements, we configure on day to day what exactly we work. Those each and every topic I explain and configure. That's the process we follow for this training. Okay.
I get it. I get it. And other than those requirements, kind of teaching, would you also take up like projects, any projects as part of the training, like at the end of the course or at the
Uh,
middle of the course?
when I say requirements, those are not the random requirements, right?
Okay.
So one
Yeah.
of the project, we say the project name, who are the end users of that project, and that company having which requirements. All those things we list out and assume we are working for that client. And for a specific client, all the requirements are not like random requirements. All requirements are related to same company, what we are going to work and achieve. It's like a project. There are projects with the same kind of requirements. Okay, so based on that, so by renaming, instead of using the real client name, I give some other name, and same thing we work by covering all the requirements.
Okay.
It's not
So
like a
it's
random requirement. So in the training, whatever the project I explain, it is for everyone, all 20 people. But once the training completes, once we so if people want to apply for the job, they need different projects. Everyone, if they keep the same project, it is not good, right? So after the training, I'll connect one-to-one with everyone and give the separate project, right? Each person,
okay.
I'll allocate a different project and explain what they need to explain as part of the interview. So that way, it will be useful for the each person. So that's what we do. Okay.
And if we put like one project in your resume, would it make up for like
So
4 years of experience?
you need to keep based on the experience. You need to keep 3 projects. Okay.
Okay, yeah. Depending on the number of years that we want to show on resume, then we need to put the number of projects. Is that
Yeah.
what you are saying?
So
And
I
would you
think
also help with job search, Srinu?
sorry, helping for job
Would you
search.
also help? Yeah, yeah. Would you also help with job search?
So I have a WhatsApp group. Okay. So
Yeah.
sometimes the companies directly call to my training center and ask for the candidates. So I'll forward all those openings in the group. Okay, so we have to apply for those jobs, and so you have to perform. It's not like if you join the course, everything will be done, right? So whatever I
No, I
explain,
understand that.
yeah, whatever I explain, so those things you have to practice, and and also you have to crack interview. I can show the openings by updating in the group, and also in the real market, in the open market, Naukri and LinkedIn job portals, there are
Yeah.
many openings. You can get many openings in that. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I think with
Sir,
the today, yeah.
sir, I have not received any email, sir, from day one. I
Okay.
checked my
So
spam folder as well.
did you register in the link whatever I
Yes,
have
sir, I
provided?
have. Yeah, I have registered.
Okay. So maybe just share your email address in my WhatsApp. Okay.
Okay. Yes,
I'll
sir.
look into that and see. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
And one query, Srinivas, like regarding the course which you informed for LWC, as you said, like if we need in-depth knowledge on LWC, we will have separate course for no, LWC and Aura. So for that, will it have any no, basic intro about LWC, and like if any non code non coder like non comes in and can join there and understand, or will it be only specific to whoever has knowledge of basic LWC?
See, RA and LWC as part of the training. Again, I'm not going to teach the development, right? So as part of the development here in this course, whatever I'm going to mention, mainly we discuss about a programming language called Apex integration, right? So again, related to Apex, there are different concepts, Apex triggers, test classes. So all those things will be fully covered end to end as part of this development training. So when we start with R and LWC, that is only related to UI, right? Only UI focused development. When I teach that, again, I am not going to teach Apex, right? So to do RA development or LWC development, you should also know Apex, right? The prerequisite for that course is development, what we are going to discuss as part of this course. Okay. Anyway, in this course, I am also going to teach RA and LWC up to basic level. Right? I'm not saying I'm not going to teach. I'm going to teach about RA and LWC up to basics. You can say in interview, I have knowledge and I created few components. Up to that level, I'm going to teach. Okay. So any other questions before me? Okay. So with the today, so we are done with the demo sessions. From Monday, meeting link will be changed. So I'm going to send one email to you. If you are interested to continue further, so you have to pay the fee. And on Monday, I think the Sunday evening, you will be automatically getting one meeting link. Okay, that's the process. Okay, so check the email, and in case if you are interested, you can pay the fee and continue. Okay, so thank you. We'll see you on Monday with the updated meeting link, different meeting link. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Srinu.
The timings will be
Srinu,
changed?